It is the Patrick Netherton Show, 1130 The Tiger. Pleased to welcome in the sideline reporter from, as Rogers Hampton is now christened them, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He is TJ Rives. TJ, how are you, my friend?
It's a shame we have nothing to talk about, my friend. I'm doing well. That's very nice there, Rogers, with Tampa Bay and the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
It does fit well.
I like it. I've heard, obviously, Tampa Bay is pretty popular. I have not heard Gronkowski yet. Have you heard this before? Have you seen this iteration?
I have heard variations of all of it. I mean, on the who'da thunk it meter, let's just begin at the beginning.
Yeah.
Who'da thunk that Tom Brady would be anywhere other than New England? Not me. And many others that thought if he's not playing in New England, he's retiring. All right, so that's number one. We were wrong about that. Then he picks the Bucs, which, again, this just into the newsroom. The Buccaneers have struggled to make the playoffs for a while, so now everybody's giddy, everybody's excited. Not only that, but he talks Rob Gronkowski out of retirement. 2 weeks after WrestleMania, which you're a big wrestling guy.
Yeah.
I'm a wrestling guy. He's in the ring in WrestleMania a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now.
Winning the 24/7 championship.
And he's going to play, but not for New England, but for the Buccaneers. And then let's just add some more to all of this, that the former Bucs quarterback is now headed into your state, the state of Louisiana, and the New Orleans Saints. I mean, you can't make this up any better than what it is laying out now in terms of the off-field stuff that we have to discuss. Sir.
It's pretty crazy. So answer me this, TJ. You obviously have been around the team very closely for a number of years. Was this or is this a team that was one or two or three pieces away from making a Super Bowl run? Because, the thought process is, hey, Tom Brady's not coming in to try to go 10-6 and maybe win a division and cool. He's trying to go win another Super Bowl. Is the feeling that Tampa is close enough that the addition of Brady, the addition of Gronkowski sort of puts them over the top, and now they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender?
In a word, yes, absolutely. Because loaded is the correct word at the skill positions, especially now coming off of the draft and being able to get a couple of running backs in the draft, being able to get a safety that they have very high hopes for in the second round, being able to get a massive offensive lineman, the Big Ten Offensive Lineman of the Year, and an honorable mention All-American Tristan Wirfs in the first round of the draft. And you look on defense, I mean, this team improved in the second half of last season defensively. Shaq Barrett led the NFL in sacks a year ago. Devin White looks like a fantastic, speaking of 1130 The Tiger, Devin White looks like a fantastic long-term middle linebacker tackling machine to complement one of the most underrated, unheralded linebackers in all of defensive players in all of the NFL, and Levante David as a 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
You couple that with bringing back Jason Pierre-Paul as a free agent, bringing back Ndamukong Suh, who was willing to take a pay cut to come back to play here because Tom Brady is here. You have got pieces all over the place now to put it together, and you still have to go out and play. You still have to go out and win games, and that's a long way from now. We still have to see training camp, preseason, the beginning of the season, and January is like on the moon at the moment.
Yeah.
But
it's
all of that being said, on paper, they look like a Super Bowl contending team right now.
Okay, so here's maybe the better question. Are they even the favorite in their own division?
Well, and that's fair because the Saints have been the standard of that division. And it seems as though every year we talk about is New Orleans going to be the 10, 11, 12-win team out of this division. They really have had the stranglehold on it the last 3 or 4 years, going back to the year when Carolina went 14-1. So the NFC South was so volatile earlier in this century, and it's still weird to say that phrase, by the way. You and I are contemporaries. It's still weird to say, hey, in this century, the NFC South used to be crazy, where a team would finish first, and then the following year would finish last. And then like 5 years or 6 years in a row, a completely different team won the division every year.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like what Brady was used to in New England, where you just wrote N-E-W-E-N-G-L-A-N-D every year before the season started as the AFC East champ. So it is going to be different, but there's no doubt those Buccaneers-Saints games are going to be must-see TV, and I would be shocked, Patrick, if one or both of them are not Sunday night or Monday night football. One of them is probably going to be a Thursday night game, and the other one will be a Sunday night or Monday night game.
Yeah,
with these two future Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
I would agree. And now the I don't know, TJ, help me out here. I haven't looked at all of the divisions, but we said last year we thought that the NFC South was lousy with good quarterbacks, and then Jameis threw 30 picks, and Newton was hurt a bunch, and it kind of fell through. But, Bridgewater seems to be the guy. Carolina went and got him. Obviously, you guys have Tom Brady. Matt Ryan's still in Atlanta. Drew Brees still in New Orleans. This appears to be, at least quarterback-wise, one of the, if not the strongest division.
Oh, I think so. I mean, you could maybe, you look at maybe a couple of other ones, and there's been obviously some shuffling around, but I mean the
NFC West
North that has Rodgers, that has Kirk Cousins, not Trubisky, but Matt Stafford when he's right and if he's healthy, and I know they've been in disarray.
The West has some good
argument.
Some good.
I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. So the NFC East, definitely with Carson Wentz at the top of it, Dak Prescott. But then it drops off with Daniel Jones, who largely flunked last year. Dwayne Haskins with the Redskins, again, as a second-year quarterback, and they were bad for a lot of last year. I don't really know that there is another division right now. It's certainly not the AFC West because that's Patrick Mahomes, and then it drops off dramatically, including Derek Carr, who I'm not so sure is going to end up being the guy, and maybe Mariota. So you're probably right that the NFC South, unless we're leaving something out off the top of our head,
I mean,
the most noteworthy quarterback.
The West has Garoppolo and Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, and then Jared Goff. So, I mean, that's a pretty solid.
Maybe that's the fairest argument in comparison.
Yeah, the West and the South. The difference is the South is full of veterans, and the West is still young guys in Kyler Murray and Jared Goff, and Garoppolo, for that matter, who's a little bit older but still pretty young in terms of being a starter. We're talking to TJ Rives, sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and TJ, give us the report on Jameis. Then he's coming to the Saints. Everyone here is kind of wondering, all right, if Breeze goes down as what happened last year with the thumb injury, is it Taysom Hill because they've invested a lot in him? They think he's the quarterback of the future. Sean Payton's called him the next Steve Young. All of this stuff. Is it Taysom Hill, or they do what they did last year with Bridgewater, except this time it's Jameis Winston in there, and they leave Taysom Hill as the Swiss Army knife? That's what we're all asking. You can give us a little bit more of an accurate scouting report on Jameis Winston.
Well, and let's be honest here on this. I haven't had a lot of contact with him to know all of the thinking, but there's also common sense involved. And I've been doing this for a long time, and you've been doing this for a long time too. If there was a multi-year deal out there for Jameis Winston to compete as a starter somewhere over the last 3 or 4 weeks in and around the draft, before the draft, or now after the draft, it was going to be much more unlikely after the draft, then that's the deal you go and do. So it's obvious at this point what was out there was come be a backup. We'll give you a year or two deal, and you're going to come as a backup. And obviously actions are speaking loudly here. He believes this is the best situation to come, learn, observe, and be ready to go if his name and number is called. I think you bring up the fascinating point that because down here, there's so much talk about, okay, what happens if Breeze gets hurt? Is Jameis going to haunt the Buccaneers? And I keep saying to people on and off the air, how do you know that Taysom Hill is not the backup quarterback right now?
That's
especially with the money that Mickey Loomis and the franchise just gave him.
Yeah.
How do you know that they're not grooming him to be the guy, and Jameis is kind of the insurance policy?
Yeah.
We don't know till we see this, and it's just an interesting dynamic that he stays in the division, he stays with the Saints, with the rival team in the South, and let's see how this plays out, because I was one of those, again, I know in our business nobody wants to own up to things that they've said in the past, but isn't Twitter a great thing, and old takes exposed, and the magic now of going back and finding things digitally that people say, that people write, or whatever. I didn't believe the Saints were going to survive very well long-term without Drew Brees, and Teddy Bridgewater made me and a lot of other people look bad for having said that at the time, and Teddy Bridgewater got a ton of money in free agency because of how he looked in those 5 or 6 games. So what that's taught us is don't ever say never on somebody being able to step in and perform. And Bridgewater's a classic example.
Well, the thing that I find most interesting, and I mentioned this yesterday, is Bridgewater is the classic risk-averse guy. He knew what he was in there to do. If there was something open down the field, try it. But mostly he just threw checkdowns. And most of the Saints' offense last year was that. I talked a lot about Drew Brees not throwing deep a lot anymore, all of that stuff. But Teddy Bridgewater was absolutely not going to put the ball into trouble. If they had to punt, they had to punt. But I think Jameis Winston comes in, if he's your backup and you need to play him at some point, he comes in with the opposite effect, which is he believes his arm is such, and he's got a strong arm, that he can force the ball where he needs to get it. That's why he threw a lot of interceptions last year. To me, it feels like, anyway, that Bridgewater and Jameis are almost opposite quarterbacks in that regard.
Yeah, and I think you're right on that. I mean, I've watched it now for 5 years, and there's forcing the ball, there's repeatedly forcing the ball, and then there's throwing 60, 70 interceptions over 5 years. I mean, there's no doubt that that has been his undoing, and he will take those risks. And you don't throw for 5,000 yards like he did last year unless you're willing to throw the ball down the field. You're exactly right, and that's been one of his strengths. So I think it's a good point that you make. Would he be a different quarterback, and is he going to ultimately benefit from the tutelage of Sean Payton and watching Drew Brees and being around there? This is going to be a fascinating study here for a year for Jameis Winston. Yeah. And again, the unanswered question is, what opportunity is he really going to get if something does happen to Drew Brees? Or is this just a situation where he's there, he's learning, and Brees plays most of the season, which is what has been the case throughout his career? He's rarely been hurt. Yeah. Last year was an exception, so we'll see. Yeah,
it'll be interesting. TJ Rives, sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right, tell me about now a couple of positions that I think are very interesting. You mentioned you got a couple of good running backs. You got a good safety from Minnesota. You got the big offensive lineman from Iowa. That's all good. But to me, the fascinating aspect right now is tight end. We hear Brates maybe on the market. We hear Howard because Gronkowski's coming in. Give me some idea of what that tight end room is going to look like when it's all said and done.
It's loaded because, again, Brady is a great pass-catching tight end on third down in the red zone. He was Jameis's favorite target, arguably, over the last 4 years or so. O.J. Howard, more of a vertical threat. He's got more speed. And you bring Gronkowski in, and again, we have to temper all this. We don't know what you're getting here when he's been off from football for a year, when he was banged up physically at the end in New England before retiring. He's admitted he's had 12 surgeries on his elbow, on his knee, on his back. So that's got to be a concern of how many snaps can you get? How many games can you get out of Rob Gronkowski? But yeah, it's a tight end room where I think there's enough footballs to go around, because I don't know how many games where Gronkowski's playing 50, 60 snaps a game. So there's going to be opportunity for all of those guys to be active as we sit here right now in late April and be effective for the Buccaneers. Now, that being said, if the right offer had come along, the feeling and the belief was the Bucs would be willing to part with O.J. Howard because he's in the final year of his deal, his rookie deal, and they still have to decide whether or not they're going to pick up the fifth-year option. A team acquiring him would have that same opportunity. So we don't know as we head towards the season. Might that become advantageous if somebody wants a tight end, or even in and around the trading deadline? So there's a lot of unknowns with that. And O.J., again, and getting to deal with him, is a tremendous guy and a stand-up guy, even after the losses. So I root for him just like I'm rooting for Jameis Winston, except when he plays the Buccaneers. Let's see what happens, because those guys, again, were good to me, stand-up guys. I wait to see how that tight end room will look. But I will tell you this: I don't care who it is, including the Saints. Good luck with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Gronkowski and some combination of Brate or Howard, and trying to figure out who you're going to double and stop from getting the football.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Final thing, TJ, is there a chance that at some point, either during training camp or during the sideline, during the game, that you might sneak up behind Gronkowski, roll him up in a little sunset flip, and go ahead and take the 24/7 title?
There is a lot of talk about what is the status of that, and does he have to wrestle again somehow, some way, or does he just vacate the WWE 24/7 title?
Mm-hmm.
And are there Buccaneer teammates or just average Joes in Tampa that if they encounter him with social distancing or whatever, if they can get the 24/7 WWE belt off of him? I don't know what the status is. We need an investigation. We need Rodgers on the case here to find out exactly what the rules and restrictions are if he still has McMahon's 24/7 championship from the WWE, and is that on the line? So
all you have to do, TJ,
it's a great question.
TJ, all you have to do is just get you a certified WWE ref, bring him with you, and just pin the monster, and you're the champion. That's all it takes. So,
are you willing to be on call if necessary?
Oh, of course.
For that move to happen. And in my case, I'm not as thick. I'm tall, but I'm not as thick as he is. You're bigger, so this might have to be a double team effort. You with the chair, the old the villainous thing.
Yeah.
Somebody with the chair, classy Freddie Blassie with the cane back in the day in the WWE.
I'll spit the green stuff on him like I'll spit the green stuff on him like Mr. Fuji used to do, or Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, or whoever used to spit the great Ming, merciless Ming, whoever it was. Somebody spat the green stuff on it. I'd do that. Look, I'm here to help. I just want to see you win the title, TJ. That's all I'm here for.
Yeah, the championship belt is allegedly at stake wherever and whenever, and believe me when I tell you, that has come up.
I love it.
It has come up in the media. It has come up around here on social media.
Love it.
What are they doing for the 24/7 title?
Look, if you see R-Truth skulking around Tampa, he is the most. He has held the 24/7 title the most times. So if you see R-Truth skulking around, chances are he's coming for that belt. So just be ready. It's going to happen. Just make sure you're on top of it. You're supposed to be there. Yeah. All right. TJ, you're the best, man. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And looking forward to hopefully getting back to some football here before too long.
Yes. And keep doing what you're doing right now. There on 1130 The Tiger and in the Shreveport area. And you guys be safe from the storms. I heard you saying that as well. If we don't have enough going on now, we got to start worrying about tornadoes, bad weather. And we don't even want to talk about hurricane season in Florida. Here, but that's not supposed to be for another 60 days or so.
Yeah.
So we're going to hang in here on our end. You guys do the same, and we'll get back to some normalcy, hopefully, as the spring unfolds and we get into summer.
All right, brother.
All right, boys.
Appreciate it. TJ Rives, sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.